So yeah, I had to give 2 presentations because I proposed some and both were big. So Flexbox, you can. Yeah. Flexbox. I'll talk a bit about what is Flexbox, a bit about the history, and then some properties. But the most important part is demos here because this is CSS, this is styling. So what is Flexbox? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Flexbox is a CSS, as a group of CSS properties. So you can define a container in which you have, for example, rows or columns or lists of elements, and then you can easily display them flexible. So before that, we had to use, for example, a fixed width, and it would look a bit wonky or it didn't grow up. So that's why we use Flexbox, and it's once you get the hang of it, it's very useful to use it almost everywhere, in fact. So yeah, so the history, it started in about 2004, but not until 2012 we actually had the current version of Flexbox. Before that we had some weird, different old Flexbox, it's called, which is not supported anymore. And currently from Internet Explorer 10 or Edge, you can approximately get pretty good Flexbox support. While there are some bugs, you should always check in every browser to see if everything looks good. So the most important part of our Flexbox is defining which is our container. So this is an HTML element in which all of the other elements are listed. Then we can also list the direction in which all of the elements will be. Will they be in a row, which is the default, or we can also let them be in a column. We can justify, which is on the opposite axis of the axis we chose, so row or column, or a line which is on the same axis. With these two combined, we can easily put something in the middle of a page, which was crazy to achieve before Flexbox. And then we can also add to each of our elements itself, we can define it with the self property. For example, one should be on a different order or should be aligned to another part than the general consensus. So then we'll do the demo now, I think. Yes. So, fire up Code Pen. Yeah. So, we'll see here, this will create a snippet of HTML. This was Emmet you saw. It's very easy to work with once you get the hang of it, but that's maybe for something else. So we have here a div, which is a general purpose tag you can use for pretty much everything. And then we've added 15 of the same images. So by default I haven't applied any CSS. This is just each of those will each of the images will fill the whole container they have, and we gave the body, which is the thing that surrounds everything, a full height. So then to apply Flexbox to our div, we'll do display flex. So once we do display flex, it will arrange each of those 15 images, and then it puts them just on a row, because this is the default. But having those all together on one row without letting them wrap might become quite small, especially if there is text we still want to read. So we'll let them wrap, and then they're big again, because now they'll take all the available space because of the 100% of the width here. So in each of the div images, we'll give them a flex basis. So what exactly is a flex basis? This is the natural size of our Flexbox. So this here is 10M, so 10 letters N next to each other. So they just have this size now. So if I resize this, which is pretty much what we could achieve before Flexbox as well. But what makes Flexbox really cool is we can let them grow. Now this looks a bit weird. If there are more, you see it fills the whole container. And if you don't have too little spare, if you have just one spare, then you get weird situations like this. You also can give them a max width, for example, 15M. So they don't get too large. So this was quite easy to create, in fact, a flexible list, which wasn't as easy before. You can also, with Justify, on the same axis as before. Oh, oops. So now you see the spare ones here, they jumped into the middle. And then you can also add them to the flex end. So the flex box goes like this, and now it's aligned to this part. The direction doesn't have to be a column, it can also be a row. Now, because our width of the image was 100%, that will take all of this. But if we align items, so this is on the other axis as the flex direction, we've aligned them in the center here. And what would have blown some people's mind in 2009 if we so now it's the flex end and aligned center. So now if it's centered in, oh yeah, so the div needs to be given a height. So now our images are exactly in the middle of our div, which fills the whole viewport. So that was Flexbox. This might have sounded a little bit hard to grasp because I was just saying things. There are two really nice websites. The first of them is Flexbox Froggy, which lets you play Froggy. So you have to align each of those Flexbox items, flex items, and you have to align them on their little pond with Flexbox. So the right color, etc. If you don't really like frogs, there's also Flexbox Defense. So this one so you can't really see the URL here, but it's flexboxdefense.com, and the other one was flexboxfroggy.com. And then you have to use Flexbox on these elements to, for example, here, Tower 1. How do we get it in the center? Anyone remember that? So we have to justify content center. Then it gets in the middle here, in the middle of our Flexbox row. And these two, so this one's another property of justify content is space between, in which we'll start at the very edges and then we'll let Flexbox fill the empty space with empty space. There are some other properties as well. So this will be enough to win. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So yeah, that was Flexbox. And we won. Yeah. So yeah, this is a fun way to really get to use Flexbox and use them in all of the things. For example, in the so here we are using Flexbox as well to have space around here and align the times to the very edge here, etc. You can look at the code on GitHub as well. So okay, so these were the presentations, and now you can break up. So you use either you can just do some free Code Camp, or you can ask specific questions about Flexbox, Firebase, or Travis.
Do you know what the Flexbox website is? There's a video series from Wes Bos, and he's also talking about Flexbox. Flexbox.com or something like that. It's really nice to see.
So it's flexbox.io, which is a video course. And
there's also YouTube the free
Hi there,
videos.
I'm Wes Boss. Thank you so much for checking out What's a Flexbox. What do you think?
It's really enthusiastic.
Yeah. He has quite a few of other tutorials as well, which are interesting. So, other questions still? Or for Elias?
Or what kind of websites would you use Firebase?
So you'll mostly use that for apps, so stuff which has users and which with small defined bits of information. So for example, the chat, or a social network you could use it for. Or we also used it, so we worked together on a group project. In which you say, this is quite barren now, but you check in on an app which is also connected to Firebase, and then this gives us an address for each of the moments. So when you arrived, when you went away, and we sent an update to our Firebase, and then we calculate it from that. So you can go quite far with that.
I can see overprotective parents using that on their children, where they are.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they've left school, now they're at football practice.
Yeah, indeed, you could use it for that. This was intended for employees, but you know.
That's quite good. The employers they clock on at 8:50.
Yeah.
It's mainly for web apps.
Yeah, for interactive stuff. So you can combine them with the strengths of a static site.
Mm-hmm.
So this site is completely static. We don't use backends. Just as said in his presentation, we also use Gulp and Travis CI to make a site, and then that gets put on a branch on GitHub. After which it's It's just providing simple files, and every interaction is done client side, so JavaScript.
And you were saying that for Firebase you can also use it for social networks. So biggest social network, Facebook. How do the two work together? Would Facebook use, I guess, its own unique form of coding, or is there an element of Firebase on it?
I meant it as in, if you would make your own Firebase, your own Facebook, you could use Firebase.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you're planning, of course, to make real huge things, you have to take into account that it's not always free. So you have to weigh your options, what's cheapest pricing here. There's quite a lot of stuff in the free, and that's why I like it. So you get 10 gigabytes of hosting, so that's for the images, videos, etc. You can use that. I didn't show it in my demo, but you can have 100 simultaneous users, so that isn't huge, but it's quite affordable once it gets to $25 a month, in which you have a limited amount of users, or like 10,000. And if you have that much users, you'll probably also have a bit of revenue. So that's how it
Congrats, simultaneous connections is okay for starters.
Yes, it's okay for starters. Only when you've proven that you've hit your limits, you can either upgrade Firebase, or maybe then you can write your own thing, which could come out at a bit less than $25 a month.
What is revenue?
Winst. Yeah. So.
Are there recommended JavaScript frameworks for Firebase, or can you just use anything?
You can use anything. So our thing was made without any frameworks, but there are libraries for with Angular with Polymer, with React, with Ember, or with Backbone. So which pretty much every of the large frameworks, there is a way to use every nice part of Firebase.
What's a framework?
A framework is so if you write a large amount of JavaScript to create a page, and then you do it in a certain way, and you follow, for example, the example of Facebook, and Facebook uses React to create their page dynamically, but on the client side. So you just send some JavaScript and some HTML to the person, and then on the person's side, each part will get dynamically created depending on what you want to see.
Okay.
So a framework could make it easier to work with huge things, but also not always. You have to make the decision yourself and learn about and compare. Something which was maybe not said clearly, so Travis is not only to deploy, so here we deploy in a build script which pushes to a certain branch on GitHub, which will host on GitHub pages. But for example, you can also use it for testing. So if you define some tests in, then it gets tested online, and you see if your code stays working. You can add specific tests for specific parts, which is recommended in larger things, not for when you're just starting. You just write something, but if you want to create maintainable stuff, you have to test it. Other questions? Okay, then maybe now we can take a short break.